Hey team, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to look at the struct and the Typedef struct commands. Below in the description is a timeline so you can skip around the video at your pleasure. If you want to see more computer programming training videos from me, where every video teaches you what you really need, easy to follow, easy to understand, and steps that will make you learn, then please subscribe to my channel. I will not disappoint. So in our first video of the struct, you can notice here I'm saying struct and I'm giving it a name. And the whole data type would be called struct and whatever name we put here. So notice the way I used it down here on line 14, I said struct dorm. Notice here I said struct dorm. And these are the elements, the attributes of dorm. But this is kind of like my data type, struct dorm. That's my new data type. And notice here is my variable name. So here, struct dorm D1, and then I use the dot notation and then the field name. So you see here it's D1 dot building ID, and it's of type integer. D1.room number, and it is an integer. And then D1.cost per month, and that is a float. So this is my data type. This is my variable name. And then we had one other little nugget here, is how to print that. So you can see here that when I declared this variable, just like this, all my variables, my fields, they got populated with junk. And then as I step over the program, F10, notice that we have good values in there. And then I'm actually going to try to print that, and notice that I use the dot notation, so D1 dot again, just like assignment, and I print that out. And then we'll watch that up here, F10. And notice it's building 1, room 101, $650 a month. Well, let's change that up a little bit and say .02, and let's reprint that because I don't think we need 6 digits of precision on the cost. And that looks a little better. And there you have the first lesson of the struct. So in our second example, we're using the same struct dorm, but notice now I have a D1 down here. D1 is now a global variable of type struct dorm. I can use it in main and any other method because it's global. But here you can see that D1 is already initialized. Look at that. Zeros and all my attributes and all my fields. So now I'm going to step through there and I'm going to put values in there. Notice 1, 100, and 650. But notice now I have declared another variable of type struct dorm. This is my data type. This is my variable name. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mem copy all the stuff from D1 into D2. And this is how you use the function called mem copy. And now watch what happens. Keep your eyes right over here and I'll hit F10. Notice, bam. Notice D2 got updated with the contents of D1. That's a sweet one-liner right there. Now here I'm going to printf and I'm going to be using D2, this new variable. And you'll notice here on the top of our output that the values are there. And that is our second example. In example 3, notice that we just changed our struct dorm, our fields, and now we have 3 instances of the data type struct dorm. And here you can see I have populated, each of these will be like initialized so we can just see the data because they're global. So when I go in there and populate D1, notice D1 goes and populates the D1 variable. And you've just learned the mem copy, so I'm going to mem copy from D1 to D2. Look at it, just updated. And D1 to D3, that updated. And now I'm going to go cherry pick two of the columns and I'm going to change their prices. So look here at this cost and this cost, F10. So now we have a 700 and a 750. And now we're just going to print those three lines, 1, 2, 3, and notice 650, 750. Isn't that beautiful? You can see where this is going. I have to turn this into an array now, and we'll see that in the next video. In this example, we are going to be looking at making an array of some type of struct object. So here, once again, we have our struct dorm. This is now kind of like what we're going to make it look like. So struct dorm, and here's my variable. My variable is D, and I have 3 of them. So you can say I have D is of type struct dorm array. There's an array of struct dorms, and its variable name is D. Now this struct dorm, I changed it a little bit, and I added one more field called building name, and it itself is an array. It's an array of chars. So let's see how this works out. So you'll notice here that I declare my array of struct dorms, and then I just say, just like any other arrays, I open brackets, close brackets, and then your index value. Remember, when we say 3, that means 3 of them. Look, see this 1, 2, 3, but C begins with 0. That is a very confusing thing for a lot of programmers, but practice makes the master. All right, let's continue. So here, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to debug this D sub 0. And when I look at that, you'll notice that in building name, it looks like I got some UFOs in there, some unidentified floating objects. So we're always going to, every time we use the char, we have to memset it. We don't know what kind of garbage is in there. And 25 years of experience, have I not done it a few times? Yes. But then I wish I would have. It's always come back to haunt me. So if you're new to this, and if you start off always memsetting all your char arrays, you'll never have the problem I had. So here you can see I'm going to come down. Notice, watching over here, my values. Now watch this right here. I'm going to memset it. I'm going to clean that up. See, it's nice and clean now. Now I'm going to string copy the AAA in there. Is that beautiful? Of course it is. F10, I'm going to step my way through here. Notice now I'm going to look at D, and now we're at D sub 1. Notice that I'm going to keep doing that. And D sub 2, see, it's got garbage in there in that building name. I'm going to go clean that up as well. Now, let's take a look at all the data we just loaded. Notice D sub 0, it all looks good. D sub 1, so 650, 700, 750. The A, the B, the C. I mean, everything looks great. Now, the goal is to loop over this print, and I want to generate code that looks just like this. And I'm going to do that down here. And how do we make that work? So here I'm saying D, and then see this percent D? I'm actually going to be putting I in there. So it's going to be printing out this number. And then I will get the building ID and put it in this percent D. And then I'll just work my way down and then build that string. This is called a format specifier. These are like placeholders. And I will meet you on line 53. Look at the output now. So the output is D sub 0 building. And then what that says? D sub 0 building 1, D sub 0 room number 101, 650. I memset, and that's the way I did the memset command. And then I did the string copy. So you see here, I kind of like did a little code generation, and I generated that. Imagine I wanted a demo where I had to do 100 rooms. Well, I'm certainly not going to block copy and go do all those changes. So that's the way we do it. And that's the way we finish up lesson number 4. In this example, we're introducing a new element, typedef. This means I am the programmer, I am defining my own data type. And it is of type struct dorm, and I want to call it from here to eternity. I want to call that dorm, capital D-O-R-M. Remember, C programming is case sensitive, so you have to be aware of that. So here, I still have the struct dorm, and that's a structure. And notice here, I'm declaring dorm as D1, and I can still go down there and load it up like this. Let's take a little look-see. And notice over here, I have D1 loaded up. But now what I have done is I'm going to start using this new data type. I've defined a new data type called dorm. And I'm now going to say dorm D2. Notice here I said struct dorm. That is, like, I don't want to type this anymore. I want to type this. So I'm defining a new data type of type dorm as dorm. Let me give you just one more example if that doesn't make sense here. I can say Typedef. Are you ready for this? What is my thing that I want? I want int, and I want to call it integer. Does that make sense? So now, if I actually put this on top of this code, I can now come here and say, this is now integer. Does that make sense? So now I'm making a new data type of type struct dorm, and I'm going to call it dorm. That's what this typedef does. And then here you can see I'm just doing the integer. And I'm saying, hey, type define int as integer. Type define struct dorm as dorm. See, this is a much more complicated structure than this little baby right here. So notice here that I'm going to declare dorm D2. Now D2 is of type struct dorm, so I can still do the mem copy. Watch this right here, F10. And notice now, let's go put a little debug over here, D2, and see the contents. And notice it copied over the values, and now I can print them. Watch here, F10, and those are the values. And that is the end of this lesson. Well, I'm impressed. 5 videos teaching you everything about the struct. Well, not everything. We have one more video coming that gives a little bit more detail about the struct. But now you have the fundamentals. I mean, this is a great day. Okay, so now leave a comment, thumbs up if it deserves it, and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. We'll see you guys on the next video.